All right, and we are live with Pavel Matveev. No, I think I did it wrong now. Can you repeat it, Pavel?
Yeah, it's fine. I can introduce myself. So
Yes.
my name is Pavel Matveev. I'm CEO of Wirex.
CEO of Wirex, exactly. And I looked up your CV. You had many stops at traditional banks. What brought you really into the finance world? And can you guide us through the many stops, which were all very interesting, I believe?
Sure. So we're a London-based company, first of all. Prior to Wirex, spent my entire career in investment banks. Was mainly developing trading systems for top-level investment banks, including Morgan Stanley, Barclays Capital, Credit Suisse, Societe Generale, BNP Paribas. So almost all top-level investment banks. And at some point in my career, I realized, okay, I'm probably tired of doing this traditional banking stuff. And it was about 4 years ago. It's when we started Wirex, and I started looking in blockchain and cryptocurrencies. And I was really fascinated by technology. And at some point with my co-founder, we decided, okay, it's probably time to start doing something in this area.
Mm-hmm. What was maybe some of the main problems that you encountered working with the traditional institutions or in your job? Also, maybe from innovation perspective, or did you see anything that you really didn't like back then?
Well, corporate environment and startup environment are very different. There are pros and cons in both environments. Again, corporate environment might work better for some people. It didn't really work good for me. I do prefer to work in startup where you can move faster, there is agile environment where you can innovate. I'm very skeptical about innovation in big corporations. It's not just investment banks, but big corporations, they usually move slower. And it's probably one of the things I don't like about big banks or traditional banks.
As an entrepreneur, you always basically really find problems and solve them, right? That's the basis of bringing a product to the market. What are the structural or systemic problems of the traditional institutions? Can you talk about that, and then also can you explain a bit more in depth what fascinates you about the blockchain technology?
So yeah, if we're talking about traditional finance or traditional payment industry, there are a lot of problems. Again, they're slightly different in different markets, but one of the problems is that people overcharge. So there are a lot of fees, there are a lot of hidden fees as well, and it's basically where banks make money. You have to pay for when you send in money. In some countries, you have to pay for receiving money. So Japan, for example, is known for a lot of fees. There are a lot of fees in Japan in traditional industry, but people don't really complain because there is no alternative, and they just got used to these fees. And this a bit interesting point. So I think about blockchain and cryptocurrency. I do differentiate with two terms, so cryptocurrency and blockchain. The thing is, there is no really production-ready solution or blockchain solution at the moment on the market, apart from cryptocurrencies. So we can always talk about smart contracts, Ethereum, and all this super cool ICO projects, but in reality, none of them are production-ready. So this is interesting reality. So cryptocurrency is the only production-ready project on blockchain, and crypto is good for value transfer, and you can send funds to anybody in the world almost instant, almost without fees. So fees will go away, especially when the second layer of cryptocurrency technology will go in production, like in networking, if we're talking about Bitcoin.
Mm-hmm. Okay, before we jump in Wirex and what you do with Wirex, I want to have a last question on your personal relation with crypto. And maybe I'm not sure, you have to decide yourself how much you want to prevail of your personal opinion, but could you comment on basically the crypto politics a bit, and again about the disruption that is happening? What exactly in your eyes is the crypto revolution about? Is it really just faster payments, less fees, new players in the market, more innovation, or is there really something fundamental different? How money works, how the system is set up? I mean, you probably well know Andreas Antonopoulos and his amazing talks. Can you comment on that?
Well, it's quite interesting when people ask like how Wirex, for example, is different from other neobanks, right? There are a lot of neobanks which trying to create better banking, faster payment, and other stuff. Usually talking about this phrase, which usually associated with Henry Ford, about like if you ask people what they want, they probably will tell you they want faster horses. And if you ask general crowd at the moment what they want, they probably will tell you we want better banking, we want faster payment, cheaper payment, less fees on our card transactions. What we're doing in Wirex and what other guys are doing in cryptocurrency space, we're not inventing faster horse, we inventing a car. So we developing something completely different. So this is a different ecosystem. This is token economy. So there are a lot of cryptocurrencies at the moment. There will be, a lot more in the future, given you can tokenize whatever asset you have. So token economy is something different from what we have right now. And token economy itself is a solution for a lot of problems. Money transfer is one of them, but there are, you can do a lot of stuff with token economy. So I still wouldn't say that it's very revolutionary, but revolution usually it's very dangerous, right? So I see this as a evolution of not just finance industry, but the internet itself to something bigger, like a token economy.
Okay, very interesting. Now let's talk about Wirex. The reason why we have this hangout is because you posted on LinkedIn, and I jumped in and asked if Wirex is working, basically. And this, of course, at the moment is a big question, because Bitcoin is skyrocketing, was on $20,000. The early adoption is really happening. You cannot deny it anymore. Nobody can deny it anymore. It is accepted now also more and more by banks, and I think in the next years, you can probably also comment on that, we will see the transition happening. But the big problem is, if somebody is a crypto owner, it's hard to spend cryptocurrency, simply because there aren't many accepting merchants yet. In Malta, I think we have around 30 shops and cafes, and you can actually buy a car. There's a car dealer who accepts Bitcoin. There is a couple of restaurants and bars, and also a real estate agency. But ultimately, you wouldn't be able to really live with that. So what happened was that debit cards, Visa cards, crypto cards appeared, and maybe you can also give us a little bit of history about this whole system.
Well, we can go back in time and actually talk about how the industry started. I know there are a lot of companies, especially young companies from ICO companies, pitching the same idea. But so 4 years ago, 3.5 years ago, when we started, we were the first company who started issuing cryptocurrency debit cards. It was around the same time as another company started doing this. It was Zappo. It's again quite well-known or established play in cryptocurrency market. And the main idea was that, okay, we can talk about token economy, how great it is, how revolutionary it is, a lot of benefits for value transferring, for value storage, for, I don't know, M2M payments in the future. But reality is that, again, you can't go to Starbucks or buy a cup of coffee with your crypto. It's the example I was using 4 years ago, and now I think it's a bit overused by other companies. But anyway, so this is the problem. And at some point we realized, okay, Visa card, not Visa card, just any debit card or credit or prepaid card can be a solution for merchant adoption. And you're absolutely right. There are just a few merchants in the world that's accepting crypto. I actually have a number, is 0.3% of all merchants in the world accepting cryptocurrency. Definitely not enough. So it's why cryptocurrency Wirex card is an excellent card for this merchant adoption. And you can use your crypto in more than 40 millions of merchants in more than 200 countries. So it's how we started. We can talk about this Wavecrest issue, what happened in January. It's probably what you're referring to. So last year, there were smaller players in the game as well, offering the similar services. So in January, Wavecrest lost its Visa license and it's basically eliminated everybody in the space. We, as the largest cryptocurrency debit card provider with 1.6 billion customers, we kind of predicted it was coming, and we had another issue we're currently using. So for us, it was just a matter of switching, basically issuing printing cards. You might be surprised, but printing cards, the plastic cards, take about 12 weeks just to print plastic. So this is the only reason why we started not in January, but about 2-3 months after Wavecrest collapse. So what's currently happening, so after Wavecrest collapsed, Visa changed rules, so it's now more difficult to get, it's called cryptocurrency, related cryptocurrency card program. So it's more difficult to get approval for this type of product. And at the moment, we are the only cryptocurrency payment card in Europe where you can deposit cryptocurrency, send crypto, convert it, or spend it with your card.
All right. And that also works in Malta. So if I'm a multi-citizen, I can sign up at Wirex with the app online, fill in my KYC, and receive the card in a couple of weeks.
Well, it's not a couple of weeks. You will receive a card in 4 days, yes.
Oh, wow, not bad. Okay, cool. Great, fantastic. And then I'm able to spend basically my Bitcoin, my crypto at any shop that accepts a Visa card.
Yes, we can talk about the different features. So this is kind of our next version of product. So it's contactless card. With contactless card, we give you currency account. So in fact, it's very similar to your bank account. So you got your unique source code. If you after GBP account, we will give you unique source code and account number. So you can receive third-party payments, your salary, whatever you want. For Euro, we will be offering the same functionality probably in a couple of weeks. So it's not just a card where you can spend crypto, but you can actually use this card as your primary card of your primary Euro account. Receive, send funds, traditional fiat. So the thing about Wirex, we are not either crypto or fiat. We combine these two worlds in one application. We do believe they should coexist.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah.
Can you, because you mentioned it in the beginning, how do you see this transition and evolution approaching? So will the card exist for the next 10 decades, or will you be able to I don't know, have, I don't know, maybe a transplant or just NFC completely? I mean, your card is already contactless, which is great. But how do you see payments evolving, and especially like the customer journey? Like how will customers pay in the future?
Well, cards are obviously temporary. It's payment industry is developing very fast, right? So okay, first of all, we slowly move into an era of IoT or connected devices. In a couple of years, there will be 25 billion of connected devices. When we're talking about IoT, we're talking about micropayments or machine-to-machine payments. So it's basically when all these devices do microtransactions. And the thing about microtransactions on a global scale, you can't really do it with traditional banking instruments. It's just too expensive.
Mm-hmm.
So,
all right.
Yeah. So it's one area. So, but you know, the card is temporary. Obviously, it will be something else. It will be wearables. It will be some contactless technology or something like that.
Okay, as a last question, I want to know, since I mean, you also you have your own bank license. I'm here in Malta, and as you probably know, Malta came up with a unique approach for a regulatory framework, specialized or really tailor-made for the blockchain industry. Can you give us your personal opinion on how you see jurisdictions preparing for this financial revolution, and what's required from the business side, or from your side, from your perspective? What will be a good jurisdiction to license such fintech companies?
Well, I think what Malta doing is really great. It's not just Malta, but other countries, especially kind of offshore zones, are trying to do similar stuff, like Gibraltar, for example, or Switzerland. It's great. Again, for this country, it's a way to attract capital, to attract companies, startups, and so on and so forth. Just wanted to comment this because you live in Europe, and the interesting thing about Wirex, we're quite big in Japan. So we've been in Japan for 3 years, and we actually saw how the cryptocurrency regulation in Japan affected the market itself, how they change the market, how they change adoption, and so on and so forth. So
could you explain this a little bit?
Sure. So
what the effects were?
Yeah, so Japan is a year ago in April, Japan started regulating cryptocurrency. The interesting thing that once cryptocurrency started regulated market, it became a regulated market, it just exploded. All the big banks, all financial institutions started doing cryptocurrency business. You might be surprised, all the big banks, there are 3 mega banks in Japan, they now thinking, and they already announced their own coin. So Mitsubishi Bank, for example, planning to launch their coin. Line Chat, which is the chat application popular in Japan, planning to launch their own coin, Line Coin. SBI Group, which is our investor and big financial institution in Japan, planning to launch SBI Coin as well. So the token economy is quite big there, and it's because of regulation. Because now big players can do business, and because big players in the game, the crowd, the general crowd, have more trust to cryptocurrencies. So you go in Japan, in Tokyo, you sit in a taxi, and on the screen you can see Bitcoin advertising. It's really fascinating stuff. But the point, it's relevant to your question about what's the best jurisdiction. I believe there is a trend for regulation. So there are just a few countries at the moment who are kind of open for cryptocurrency, but in the future, there will be many, many more countries like that. So Canada, a few years ago, announced the cryptocurrency regulation as well. So it's coming in Canada as well. It's quite a big market. So regulation is coming, adoption is coming, and yeah.
Okay. How do you personally see that when Mitsubishi is launching its coin? Tokenization is something completely new. We've never tried this. We never tested. We don't know the economic implications, maybe. At the moment, we have only one currency, yeah? Or maybe a couple of big currencies in the world. Will all these coins make sense in the future? Will there be an interplay? Will they have solid use cases? And how do you think, once currencies are competing and tokens are competing, how will this really be seamless for the user?
Well, my personal opinion that a lot of coins which is currently on the market will die within 1 or 2 years. But you can probably expect this from young industry as cryptocurrency or blockchain industries. Just to comment on this Mitsubishi example, it's a slightly different cryptocurrency from Bitcoin. It's what sometimes referred to as stable coin. It's very similar to what Goldman Sachs is doing in the US now. So this is, in case of Mitsubishi, it will be crypto, which is tied to Japanese yen. So again, it's very similar to what Circle and Goldman Sachs are doing. It's kind of their own coin tied to USD. So this kind of safe coins, right? Because it's tied to your local currency. But talking about token economy in the future, I don't think there will be one ultimate coin. I think there will be many coins or tokens very different types of tokens, right? So there is a cryptocurrency, crypto commodity, or token, or crypto token. So I do believe there will be many and many of them in the future, but most of them will have different, I don't know, features, different use cases, and so on and so forth.
Have you heard of the book, The Bitcoin Standard of Saifedean Ammous?
Not really.
No? Okay, cool. Okay, very last question. There's the Malta Blockchain Summit coming up in November in Malta. Will we see a Wirex exhibition there?
Most likely, yes.
Yes.
We're trying to push our cryptocurrency cards as much as we can in Europe at the moment, because most of the people actually don't really know that we have live product. They see Wirex advertising and think, okay, this is another company, this is another ICO company pitching the same idea. Look, we are not an ICO company, we have a live product, and you can get a card right now in your application.
Perfect. Thank you so much for the interview, for your time, Pavel Matveev. And I hope to see you in November. If you want to come before to a Bitcoin meetup, just hit me up.
Okay, I will. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Have a nice one.